Welcome back, everybody. We're here this morning with Chris Linden, Paul Arco, both from Northwest Quarterly Magazine. Now, you guys, obviously from the title, put out one issue every quarter, and the spring issue is going full speed right now.
Absolutely. It's right around the corner. Hopefully we'll have that out within the next couple of weeks, and we're working hard to get it out as soon as we can.
So by the end of May, it should be out.
We sure hope so.
All right. So what kinds of things are you guys going to have in it?
A lot of great stories this issue, Jeannie. One of the stories is a great story by Jamie Johansson about bird watching, and it gives readers tips on where they can find the best places to look for birds, and also the photography is unbelievable. David Olson supplied the art. He does a great job. That's one of the stories that I highly recommend. Another one is a story that I wrote about the 60th anniversary of the Hebron basketball team. These guys won the high school state championship 60 years ago in 1952, and they recently celebrated the anniversary. And these guys are just amazing to talk to, and people still know them 60 years later. And it's a great read, and it's fun to reminisce with these guys.
So you tracked down some of those players all these decades later?
Yeah, they still live in the area, many of them. All but one of them still live in the area. And so it was just fun to talk to these guys and reminisce, and they're still close even after all these years, and they have those great stories that they love to share.
How do you guys find some of these stories? Because this seems like the coolest journalism job ever, because you really get to go so in depth with so many interesting people.
It really is a great kind of job to have. It's always amazing the kind of stories that we're able to dig up. And it's the fact that you get to go so in depth with so many stories too. They come through us through all different channels. We have connections all over town, so we cover 12 different departments that cover our entire area. So we're able to talk about things within the arts community. We're able to talk about food and dining profiles. We talk about interesting features and people. We talk about business topics, health and fitness, home and garden, you name it, we cover it. So we have a lot of feelers out there, but it's always fun just to see what kind of things you come up with. You write one story and then you come up with ideas for something completely different.
Yeah, which is so cool. Do you find that putting out an issue once a quarter gives you more time to go in depth, or do you end up still scrambling just like I know a lot of other newsrooms and publications do?
Well, I think, I mean, you know, every medium, it seems like we're scrambling sometimes. Yeah. But, you know, like Chris mentioned, we do have some time to expand our stories, you know, to maybe reach out to another source that maybe you wouldn't have time to do otherwise, and to kind of dig and to find out more information. One of the things that I did in this issue, I had a chance to profile several people in the area. Dr. T from Dental Dimensions, there's a great story about him in there, and just his background and how philanthropic he is in the community, and all the interesting things that he's done in this community.
Well, he's here on Channel 13 a lot as an expert, and you know, we see him for 3 minutes and we get his advice, but a lot of us don't really know that much about him.
Right, and I think in this issue you'll learn a lot more about him. Another one is Webbs Norman, the former director of the Rockford Park District.
Great.
He just wrote a book about the first 100 years of the Rockford Park District. That's a fascinating read. And then also we had a chance to do a profile on you, and also Katie Nielsen from 13 WREX
Which
as well.
I can't wait to read Katie's. This is the weird thing. Working in TV, you get so used to seeing yourself on camera. Reading about yourself is really uncomfortable, I found, when I was reading over it. But Katie's is going to be really cool, I know, too. And I think we have a picture you guys sent along of the Webbs Norman one, actually. Is there anything interesting you found out about him in particular that people might not know?
Well, I think it's just how passionate he remains about parks and recreation after all these years. And he came to Rockford in 1972, was not planning on staying very long, but what happens to a lot of people, he fell in love with the community, and the community fell in love with him as well. And when you think of all the great things the Park District has done over the years, and especially when he was the director of the Park District, when you think of Magic Waters and the great golf courses and all those other facilities that the Park District has, it's really been a collaborative effort, and he's been passionate about it and remains so even today.
And you mentioned the amazing photography too. I mean, some of the pictures you sent along, especially with that bird article, are really just so amazing. How do you find these amazing photographers?
We're just blessed to have a lot of great photographers in this region. You know, David Olson has provided a number of great photos, and his images are known all around the world with great publications. You know, this winter we profiled David and some of the images he took of bears out in Alaska. And those are images that have appeared in all sorts of publications that are about bears. He has a huge passion for wilderness, and it's not uncommon for him to go out and spend hours trekking through nature just to get some of these images of birds or weasels or whatever else might be around the area.
And that's not easy because animals won't sit there and count to 3 and say cheese for you.
No, but
you gotta
the photographer will.
Yeah. Yeah. How big is your staff?
We're about a dozen people. Paul and I actually make up half of the editorial staff.
That's amazing because the publication, it's so nice and it seems like a lot more people than that are behind it.
Right.
Well, and the nice thing I think about a lot of the staff is, you know, they're well trained, they're well educated, and they can do so many different things. I mean, Chris wears many hats. I mean, the entire staff really chips in and does a lot of different things. And we're, like Chris said, we're blessed to have a great staff.
How big of an area in the region do you cover? Because Northwest, you know, sometimes people think that means basically anything outside of Chicago.
Right. We cover essentially from Boone County and Belvidere west toward the Mississippi. We go north about as far as Beloit, Janesville. We go south along the Rock River down toward Sterling, Rock Falls area.
That's a pretty wide area.
It's a huge area to cover.
How do you strike that balance between kind of giving everyone an equal voice then? Because I know that, you know, here at WREX we have the same thing. We're trying to cover so many communities, and sometimes it can be difficult to make sure that you're representing everyone equally.
Absolutely. You know? Well, that's one of the things that we really strive to do best, is to balance all of those different facets. You know, in each issue we strive to get something that's from Wisconsin, something that's from south of our region, you know, something that's from west near Freeport, Galena, something that anchors in Rockford. So we try and get this wide diversity of different people and get them all talking about different things within their own region.
Yeah. What I love about the publication too is it seems like everything in it is positive, and you don't see a lot of that these days.
Right.
And is that part of your goal in doing it?
Absolutely. You know, we talk about how we are a positive publication, and we're relentlessly positive and uplifting, and you know, the stories we tell. And I think that's why our readers love what we do, is because we talk about, you know, what's good, what's happy. Our region does have a lot of that to offer.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather hear about that stuff. I don't know about you guys. Like, I like reading about like the good things that other people are doing in the community.
Absolutely.
Do you find that the atmosphere around the office is just as upbeat and fun then, because everyone's working on fun things all the time?
Except for deadlines.
Except for, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty positive, I'd say, most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
The staff gets along great. Lots of interest, lots of variety amongst the staff, and I think we make a pretty good team.
Now, Paul, people remember you probably from your work with the Rockford Park District. So how did you end up coming over to Northwest Quarterly?
You know, one of my first loves in journalism has been magazine writing. I was fortunate enough to be a part of Bill Hughes' staff at Rockford Magazine way back in the day. I'm kind of dating myself, but I've always written for the magazine since the Northwest Quarterly started 8 years ago, and I've always been a freelancer, and now I'm on staff full-time. And so it's just been great to be part of this journey, and you know, we're doing some pretty special things, and we've got some great things, you know, in store, you know, down the road as well.
So the magazine has been around for 8 years.
Correct.
How did it start? Were you part of starting it, or who came up with this whole idea?
Well, I think it was Bill. Bill Hughes, you know, pulled some people together and said that he wanted to bring a magazine back to Rockford, that Rockford deserved a magazine like this. And you know, I think the format is great, you know, all the area that we cover, and I think a quarterly magazine is perfect too. It kind of sets the tone. You know, it's there, you know, for 3 months, and you can enjoy it, take your time, and read through it, and then here comes another issue. So I personally like the quarterly format, and I think, like we talked about earlier, we're able to expand our stories, our photography, and do some special things because we are quarterly.
It's almost more like a book than a newspaper, because it seems
Right.
like it's so nice and so much work went into it. It's not the kind of thing you would toss the way you would like a daily publication. It seems like the kind of thing that people would probably hang on to, right?
That's our hope.
What would you say is the most surprising thing coming up in this issue? Out of all the profiles you did on all the different people, what are people going to be the most surprised by? I'll ask both of you.
There's so many different things that you could choose from.
Yeah.
You know, I think some of the personal profiles are probably the most surprising because the way Paul writes them, the way we all write our profiles, you really find those surprising tidbits about people, and it's fun to be able to share that part of the story that nobody's told before, or
Yeah.
that maybe somebody doesn't know about. You know, and even when we read each other's works too, you definitely get that opportunity to go, oh, I had no idea.
I didn't know
I've
that."
lived in Rockford all my life and I never knew that.
Yeah. I want to know what you guys dug up on Katie Nilsson. Any surprises there?
You'll just have to wait and read the story.
And same question to you then. What would you say is the most surprising thing that you weren't expecting that's going to be in this issue?
Well, I don't know if it's so much surprising. It's just the variety of stories. I mean, the different things that we cover. You know, one of the stories is about tips on picking houseplants and shrubs, for example, for this year.
Oh, what a great idea.
That we interviewed experts in the area. And, you know, obviously it's not inexpensive to do, and so we kind of give you some tips on how to proceed and do that this year. Also, Carla Nagy wrote a great story about outdoor movie theaters in the area, where she focused on 3 of them. And she talked to the owners. She also talked to people. It's a nice nostalgia piece too, you know, about when people were growing up and went to outdoor theaters. So I think it's just, when you think we didn't pack enough in there, here comes another great story. And I think that's one of the things that we offer.
Well, you were talking about the variety, how you try to hit a variety of topics, and it seems like, you know, just like any magazine, you pick it up and maybe every article's not for you, but there's something in there for everybody, you know. Where can people get a copy?
People can get a copy at any one of our advertising partners all around the Rockford and greater northwestern Illinois community. Within the Rockford area, you can find them at places like Guler Appliance, Gustafson's Furniture, Lonnie's Carpet Max, but you can also find them in places like Costa's Restaurant down in Byron. You can find them down in Rock Falls Sterling, down at Next Picture Show in Dixon, and all the way out in Freeport, up in Beloit and Janesville as well.
Okay, obviously this is way too much to list to put all on our screen, but we actually, we have your website and phone number here if you want to give us that too, because this is how people can also find a location to get the magazine,
That's
right?
right. We do have a full listing of all of our advertisers on our website, northwestquarterly.com. And of course, they can always call us too if they're not sure about it or they want to pick something up, 815-316-2300.
Perfect. We have so much more to talk about. You guys actually, as if all this wasn't enough, you have a new project that you just came out with this past week. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll have more on that coming up. We'll be right back.